tonight's adventure in the car, I thought I would just finally give you guys that update as to how we got where we are. So we're all dealing with the big pandemic. I decided that I was going to start Wayne State University in the winter semester. And I had Section 8 housing. So I had to move it from one county to another. So the semester started, and in the very beginning, I was commuting back and forth, and I would stay a couple nights, and then like a night or two, and then I would go back up, and I'd stay a night at home in Saginaw County, and then I'd come back, and I'd stay a night or two down in Wayne County, and then I'd go back home for the weekend. Not the greatest on gas, but it wasn't horrible. And it was doable, and it wasn't freezing every single night. The plan was to transfer my voucher to Wayne County. That was proving problematic because they lost my paperwork, didn't send me a copy of the new voucher under the new management company. So I had no idea who I was dealing with, and I had no new voucher to show to any landlords. So the Dean of Students office helped me get into the dorms for the winter semester, which was awesome. So mid-February, late February, I got to get into the dorms. I was only in there for like 2 weeks before spring break hit, and we went on spring break and we never came back because the lockdown for COVID happened in the beginning. Now, in this interim, I'm still fighting with the management companies to find out who has my paperwork. Who am I dealing with? Who do I get to deal with to get a new place through Section 8? So I finally find that out towards April. And at this point, I'm already going on a couple months of having given my 30-day notice and moving out of my old place, which was really nice. I really liked my old place. Beautiful 2-bedroom townhome. So I start looking around down here, and I learned that there are more than one type of Section 8. And there's one that starts with an L in its acronym, and I can't remember that right off the top of my head. But that one I'm not eligible for because I have become a student. So it takes me a little while and a couple different places to apply to before I actually get all of this figured out and find out that there's a different type of Section 8 that I am eligible for. So by this time, the semester is almost over. I managed to stay in the dorms until the beginning of May. Mid-June comes along, I finally find a landlord that's willing to work with me and to take this type of Section 8 that I have, and we sign these papers because we're still in the pandemic that say, yes, the place is livable and ready to move in. Come to find out, it was not. So I'm still working for the Dean of Students office. I'm still coming down to Wayne County a couple of times a week. So I'm checking on the place periodically, and they're supposed to be fixing it. So finally I get to see the place. Yeah, I signed this thing that said that it was doable because that's what I was told that I had to do. And I hadn't seen the place yet. Now, they got me to sign that and a lease without seeing the place. because I had tried to do DocuSign for the paperwork for Section 8. Section 8 management company said we can't do DocuSign, you have to sign it in person. So I had to go to the landlord's office, and when I went to the landlord's office, they had me sign just one thing after another that I had already signed, and apparently they also got me to sign a lease. Yeah. So the 13th of June, I got to see the place for the first time, and it had so many problems. So many problems. My biggest concern was its electrical. You could tell just by looking at it that it was hideously old. It was using 1920s plugs where they had those 5 plugs lined up one in a row. They don't make those anymore because they get too hot. They're a fire hazard. Can't imagine why. So I tell them that's like the first thing I tell them, that it needs to be fixed. And there's a few other things. The door has a 2.5-inch gap at the bottom that needs to be fixed because they rigged the door jamb, the door frame. So just a whole bunch of things that need to be fixed, right? So I tell the management company, first there's Section 8. Section 8 says, well, we will start doing inspections starting next week. They had been given the go-ahead to start doing inspections, so they came out, they did an inspection, and it failed. Who would have thought? So they get this list of things that need to be fixed, and I've already given them a list of things that needed to be fixed, actually using the Section 8 checklist. I gave them exactly the same paperwork that the inspector would have been doing, but I gave it to them before the inspection, saying these are the things that I think need to be fixed. Anyway, it fails. So they do nothing for a hideously long time. Finally, it's coming upon the 30 days that they have to get things fixed. Oh, also, they failed for not having carbon monoxide detectors or smoke detectors in the place, which is apparently a 24-hour violation, and they didn't get that fixed for over a week. Anyway, and the inspector got to see that they didn't do that. So, I mean, all of this is leading up to the fact that they are one of those landlords that you lovingly call slumlords. Lovingly? I don't know. Maybe that's a thing. Anyway, so finally I tell them, you know what? I'll fix the door. The door needs a new door frame. It's been busted in. Somebody probably had the cops raid the place, whatever. I will fix the damn thing. I will do it, okay? So I bought the lumber and I bought a table saw just for the project. And I did it right. Beautiful job. Like, pat myself on the back. I did a great job on that project. They finally put in a whole new sink and vanity because the sink was leaking. And put in a whole new sink, and they failed the next inspection, actually the third inspection, because the sink was still leaking. You put in a new sink and you made the new one leak. Really? Really? Trying to build the door frame, I kept blowing the fuses. Now, I knew that the fuses were not a good idea anyway, and new construction won't even let you put fuses in. You have to put circuit breakers in. But I knew something was weird because while running the saw, I had one light on in the entire place, and it was in the bathroom. And I blew that circuit. But I wasn't connected to that circuit, or at least I wasn't connected to it enough to blow the circuit that the saw was on, because the saw kept going. I saw the light go out. I was like, oh, well, that's not good. So I went and I made sure everything else was off. And I continued on for like 10 more minutes until I also blew the circuit that the saw was on. And once again, I told them, look, you've got electrical issues. You've got some kind of weird series circuit that somehow blew the circuit that I wasn't even on. And I don't even know how the hell you do that. Unless I'm somehow branched off from the original. I don't know. Anyway, I told them, once again, you guys got problems. So they put new fuses in. I'm like, you know what? I will go and I will buy a ground fault receptacle, and I will put it in so that if my saw is drawing too much juice, it'll blow that before it blows the fuse. So I go to hook it up, I open it up, and the wires in there are those old, oh my goodness, old fabric coated wires with inner insulation that is made of like brown paper bag. Like literally I touched it and it fell apart in my hands. And I don't misuse the word literally, it's a pet peeve. It literally fell apart in my hands. The brown paper bag paper insulation that was inside of these wires. I looked at that and I just flipped. I'm like, okay. And the more I looked at it, the more scared of the whole situation I got. The plug that was in the wall was a 3-prong plug. And it had the load side of the plug, which is the outgoing side. You have power coming in, power going out to other receptacles, other things, line and load, whatever. The ground, you know what a ground is, most people do. It was wired to the load side to trick any of the testers into saying that the ground was working. But there's no ground. There's only 2 wires in the wall, and they are coated with paper, and the entire wire is coated in fabric. What? Okay, that scared the shit out of me. Looking up inside of the metal box that was all rusted and had obviously been wet more than once, you could see exposed copper. The copper was burnt in some places. I was like, I took pictures of it, freaked me out. I sent it to the landlord. I sent it to the management company. I also sent it to the Detroit Fire Department. They have a customer service email address. Anyway, so yeah, if you guys got in trouble for that, that was me. I did that. That was me. Blame me, because I don't give a shit. So the day I finally got the door frame fixed, one of the maintenance guys comes over, and I'm about to put the seal into the door. I had cut a notch in the door to put one of the door seals in. Well, he brought one of the ones that screws in, if you know anything about those. But I had other things to do, so he's like, and I'm like, well, that one's a better one than what I was going to put in, so go for it. Put it in. He drilled into a knot, he split the wood, he popped it out, he didn't bother to fix it, he continued putting the door frame, or the trim piece, door jamb sealer stuff that I can't think of what it's called. The vinyl stuff that seals the door. It's got a little metal piece on it and different screws that go in. And anyway, he put it on at an angle, so now the door won't even close all the way. They put in a new sink, and remember I told you it was leaking? It was leaking because they cross-threaded stuff. I fixed that for them. It got to the point where I feel afraid to live there, and I would rather stay here in the car than live in that apartment. Of course, it's now September, and that was June, July, August, so on and so forth. So I am over it. I'm so over it. But that's how we got where we are. COVID kind of screwed us over as far as getting into a place right away, and the money just kept trickling away. So now I'm in the car, and I think I haven't done it yet, but I think I'm going to choose at this point to stay in the car rather than go and live in that apartment, because I feel that this is safer. I feel, and that's sad, living in your car in Detroit is safer than living in that fire hazard house. Oh, and I didn't even tell you about the lights that were hanging by the wires in the hallways. The fact that none of the lights in the hallways worked was probably a good thing, because, you know, they're already dangling. It's probably a fire hazard if you do put electricity to them. But then the back stairwell that would be considered your fire exit has 2 stoves. One on the landing right next to my door, and then one at the landing down the steps that goes outside. And the one that goes outside has carpet remnants all over it, like a ton of them. So even if you were strong enough to move the stove out of the way, you couldn't do it because there's carpet just draped everywhere on top of it and on the floor and leaning up against it and leaning up against the wall. You would not be able to open the door in to get out if there were a fire. So this tells me that not only do they not care about the electricity being a potential fire hazard, but they also don't even care about our lives if the fire happens, because they've made it where we're blocked in. They were supposed to have changed that last week. I was told they were changing that last week. They didn't. I was there earlier today, still like that. I got all of my things out. I cleaned up all of the sawdust from making the door frame. I thought about fixing the door seal on the frame. It really wouldn't be hard. All you really need to do is take all of the screws from where he fucked up, out, re-drill the one freaking hole that he went into a knot in, and then put the screws back in the right place. Probably have to drill them all now, because now they're all kind of off center from their old holes. But either way, it wouldn't be hard to do, but I just don't want to. I just don't even want to. I don't want to deal with them anymore. So most likely what's about to happen is I'm going to lose Section 8. That sucks because I don't have a lot of money coming in. And I'm trying to do something with my life, so I'm trying very hard to go to school here at Wayne, one of the best medical colleges and best research universities in the United States, definitely in Michigan. But all of the drama the first 2 weeks of class, I'm already behind. Like, man, I can't catch a break, you know? But anyway, I told you guys I'd update you. We are 20 minutes into that story. Yeah, 20 minutes in. And I didn't shut up. So, now you guys know.